Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow,
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
and this is the Expansions News Podcast for the third week of July, 2018. And I was just thinking this morning, because sometimes I think in the morning,
Rarely, but on occasion.
that just really, that 5 more weeks is the end of the summer.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, mine didn't even start yet. But okay.
We're in Michigan.
Yeah, and it's cloudy and cold and drizzly and... Yeah.
We're in Michigan.
Yeah.
It's warm.
Yeah. My flowers are dying already. Anyway, that's my...
You don't have to tell people that. That's private.
I know. I won't talk about my flowers.
Flowers.
My flowers. Mm. Okay. Anyway, so I have a very interesting... group of stories today, and I'm starting out with an intelligence report which I received from someone I will not name.
This is only for those people out there who are intelligent, right?
Right, so you don't have to listen.
Thanks.
And then also because I think this has been on the internet somewhere, and if you have heard it, fine, but this was something that was sent to me privately. And it actually came from the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force / intelligence community. And so the reason I'm telling you all this is because of the unbelievable flack and hyperbole that we have heard from the Trump-Putin summit in Helsinki last week, where all the news in Europe and North America are trashing him, and he's giving America away, and he's a traitor, and blah, blah. Well, let me read this to you, and then maybe you will see why he went there and why he said what he said. And you can make your own judgment. So, according to this report, and I'm just using their words, the dominoes are all in position to be knocked over. Because an, quote, elite have phoned, faxed, and emailed themselves into prison, or worse. And when the public finds out, that's when it will be worse. And you're about to find out. Because at the meeting in Helsinki, Finland, President Putin of Russia and Trump of the USA met for this reason. Because Putin gave Trump 160 terabytes of Russian intelligence intercepts, which expose, and this is in bold letters, horrifying activities of many people deliberately to create social and cultural political chaos, violent riots, demonstrations, media smears, phony scandals, and fake news. So, some of the intercepts reveal that some of these elites have been financing weapons, supplies, travel, hotel, vehicle rentals, and secure communication gear for terrorist groups inside Syria, Iraq, and creating terror attacks in Europe and US. And so some of these intercepted communications are from members of the US Congress, the US Senate, federal judges, state-level elected officials from California, Oregon, Washington, New York City and State, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, and Virginia. Once those communications left the United States, they became fair game for any country to spy on them. Many of these communications were encrypted, but Russia has found a way to break much of the encryption. And as part of the effort to improve relations with Trump, they provided the original encrypted versions and intercepts and capital bold letters and the key which decrypts them, so the U.S. can use U.S. obtained intercepts and decrypt their own information. Numerous high-ranking officials and well-known wealthy people have been caught red-handed scheming together and with foreign governments, along with radical leftist billionaires, both inside and outside the U.S., to create and finance extraordinary acts of political, social, and cultural chaos, as I mentioned earlier. Some high-level managers at gigantic social media companies, and who have we seen on the media? One in particular, with last name starts with a Z, have received literally millions of dollars in payoffs to establish or use under-the-radar company policies to impose severe censorship on certain views and to silence certain people without the knowledge or consent of higher executives or board of directors of those companies. And we have seen that happen, and we know that these things are happening. High-level mass media producers, editors, and some writers in the US and UK and elsewhere in Europe have been paid off with vast sums of money to launch phony media smears, push scandals, create and report fake news. And we have seen this also every day on the news. And with this information is revealed major, and it says likely really major news outlets will be completely ruined. Perhaps CNN, who trashes Trump every time he turns his head the wrong way, and BBC and so on. And it also says their company stock or that of their parent company will plummet to zero because of their credibility, their believability, which will be utterly destroyed. A significant number of U.S. intelligence community persons are also involved. It is now clear there is a cadre of people inside the U.S. intelligence community who have been misusing their positions to do things that were never cleared to do. The kinds of things that get people indicted, tried, convicted, and executed under federal legal system. Even more sadly, a very few high-ranking U.S. military officials have also been caught. A huge number of officials inside the U.S. State Department have coordinated activities, the likes of which the American people will recoil in horror, according to this report. And so the State Department, it says, will be the epicenter of evil for a lot of things. At the highest levels of these intercepts are allegedly names like, ooh, surprise, Soros, Rothschild, and many others. Russian President Vladimir Putin and United States President Donald Trump met in Helsinki for these 2 hours privately with no staff, no aides, no media, and this is the reason why. And during that meeting, Putin laid out the inner workings of the vast global network of elites and their activity, which are engaged to bring in wars, refugees, and all matter of political upheavals around the world, and much of it coming to the United States. Russia even provided charts showing organizational structures who are tasked with the topics or activities which I have just mentioned to you. And again, it said that 160 terabytes of this type of data was given to President Trump in the form of 1 terabyte USB flash memory drive, flash drives. Here are some of the topics that were, this is a very important, so I'm going to take the time. Brexit apparently is being funded and orchestrated by people on both sides of British politics, and their motivation is the following, according to this report. They want Britain to remain in Europe, to lessen its power, and they hate the royal family. According to this report, they're, in quote, looking forward to the day when Britain sheds its archaic monarchy and comes under total rule by the EU. So, sorry, Queen, I'm sure you're not amused. The Clintons, let's go to the Clintons. Apparently, Bill Clinton has been under surveillance since he was elected president in 1992. And according to this report, some of the things he's done, the ultimate acts, plural, of nefarious nature are all neatly recorded and indexed by Russia. And now President Trump has it all. Now, other things that are absolutely secret, and even they've been ordered to be flatly denied if anyone speaks of this.
I guess secret no more. You're telling everybody.
Well, I wasn't the first one. That these people who are involved can be criminally prosecuted, and all these conspirators with the end result in violence, while property loss or damage will be placed away. Now, the question is this all legal to present this? And actually, evidence can actually be used in court, since none of it was obtained via warrant, but all is admissible because the United States did not solicit the information and had no part in it being illegally obtained.
That's interesting.
It was
Little
just
twist.
handed, it was
isn't
just handed to them.
It's a twist.
So, bottom line is, people, literally hundreds of the ultra wealthy and or very high profile people are about to have their entire existence caught up in the wheels of justice. It seems as though the Putin-Trump meeting in Helsinki has in fact become the worst nightmare of a whole slew of people, and people, that's why he's being trashed, because they know what he was getting and they want to rip it apart before it comes into the public light. And that's why President Trump has called his Helsinki summit with Vladimir Putin a huge success. And of course, he said some things, he had to retract some things, and he had an emergency statement that was followed by no questions and no White House briefing. And the news said, we have never been in a worse relationship with Russia than we are as of a few days ago, and I think that's gotten substantially better, it's according to Trump. And he said, so I'll begin by stating that I have full faith and support for America's great intelligence agencies. I always have, and I have felt very strongly that while Russia's actions had no impact on the outcome of the election, he said that he's being raked over the coals for claiming that Russia had no reason, as far as he can see, to have carried out an election hacking scheme that his own intelligence officials have linked to the Kremlin. He said that while he has great confidence in his intelligence officers, President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial. And this is Trump again, while I had a great meeting with NATO, raising vast amounts of money, I had even better meeting with Vladimir Putin of Russia. Sadly, it's not being reported that way. The fake news is going crazy. And it's true, but now we know why. Because they know, now they're in line of fire. So when you look at this, how could he say he trusts the intelligence service and yet he says he believes what Russia says? Well, I give you an analogy, a couple. It's like trusting your financial advisor, but then you decide that something else, investment is better. Or you trust the meteorologist, the weathermen, but they're not always accurate with their forecast. So it's like that. And here's the thing. I'm not a fan of CNN either, but I look at them because I need to know what they're saying. And you know that Anderson Cooper, he trashes Trump. It doesn't matter what he says or does or looks, he finds a way to and what I find, they're calling him a professional chatterer, Anderson Cooper, and who said, and quote, this is Anderson Cooper, he said, perhaps one of the most disgraceful performances by an American president at a summit. Well, what makes him an expert on presidential performances? When all you do, Anderson Cooper, is read a teleprompter and wear fake glasses to make it look like you're intelligent, when what you're saying isn't even coming from you, someone wrote it for you because you couldn't possibly have.
Yeah, but look at his word, his performance. So he's a performer, which
Yes.
we've told you about before.
And every phrase, every gesture will be picked apart and second-guessed to death from now on. And so it's really very sad that American media has to do this, but now we know why. It's also said that Russia is a world power that commands an enormous nuclear arsenal, which means we cannot or should not just take our marbles out and go home, because it's not a good thing to do. That what they're trying to do is find a common ground and build on that. And I think that is a very good idea. And it says also Trump inherited a world order, that's interesting, on the international front that was constructed on the immediate aftermath of World War II. So it's true, because everything going on is based on the end result of World War II, which was also artificially ended.
That makes sense.
There's much, I'm going to just state this, there is much the public does not know or understand yet, And Janet knows that in recent days I have been contacted by some major forces in this world who have told me things I am not allowed to repeat to you. And so I'll just tell you that you need to pay attention. Now, let's go to what happened with Israel. This is another fake news thing. Israeli government endorsed their nation-state bill, which and they're calling it has many racist provisions for the establishment of Jewish-only towns, and that now Hebrew has been made the official language, which it was, but Arabic, which was an official language of Israel, now just has special status. And of course, everybody is upset about this. But people, let us remember, is it any different than Iran making their country an Islamic nation, or any country in Europe considering Christianity their official religion, or making French the official language of France, even though there's a couple of million Africans and Asians living there? What's the difference? And let us also remember that in 1948, the state of Israel was created for Jews because they were thrown out of everywhere. It was created for a Jewish country. So really all they did was restate that. So get over yourselves, just like get over that Jerusalem, it is the capital of Israel and it has been for close to 5,000 years. So get over it. Now, another thing going on with Israel is that people are surprised that Israel is pursuing alliances with the far-right groups and extremists in Europe. And it says they've embraced the far right from Italy to Ukraine. For example, they just recently hosted Italian post-fascist Gianfranco Fini, who came to Israel. And Fini was the leader of the Movimento Sociale Italiano, or Italian Social Movement, which was considered to be an anti-Semitic fascist party, which he's now trying to change. And so now he's changed it to the National Alliance, and he took his new image and went to Italy in the company of Amos Lusato, the head of the Italian Jewish community. And it says that Israel embodies the perfect balance of different realities while ensuring law and order, and it is a role model for security and anti-terrorism policies. This is what the Italian said on the trip to Israel. And besides that, Israel has now embraced the far-right Alternative for Germany, also called AfD party, which has had electoral successes scaring the life out of Angela Merkel. And it also has established solid ties with Israel despite its racist views. The German racist views, not the Israel. The party was derided in the past for anti-Semitic xenophobic views, redolent or in memory of the Nazis, and also staunchly supportive of Israel. Israel has also reached out to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who in the past few years had been leading a vicious political campaign against the Jewish Hungarian financier George Soros. But Benjamin Netanyahu last year went to visit Budapest, and now Orban is in Israel also, and said that Hungary is a friend of Israel, and that all Jews in Hungary, and there's hundreds of thousands of them, have complete peace and security in his country. And here's the other interesting thing, that Israel is in support on the Azov Battalion, a neo-Nazi paramilitary organization in Ukraine. So the question is, why is Israel allying with the far right? Well, there's many reasons. You might remember people I've mentioned. How long ago was I? I did my work in Helsinki, Finland myself, and I read an article that said strange bedfellows where the leaders of the neo-Nazi movement were aligning with Israel. This is not new news, it's old news. It's just now coming to conventional news. And it says that Benjamin Netanyahu met leaders from the so-called Visegrad group, which includes Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia, in the hopes to find new allies that he can use to exert pressure on the rest of the EU. And they need that because the EU is bazonkers. The Israeli government seems intent on weakening Europe by investing in existing divisions of offering political validation to groups that are on the political fringes. It hopes that a divided Europe will be more easily controlled and coaxed back into Israel's loyalty camp. And that's what Russia is doing also.
Well, interesting, and I told you not too long ago Prince William was there.
Yes.
So there's
right.
another.
And that his grandmother
is
was
buried there.
there.
Yeah, Prince Philip's mother is buried there.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, and this is what's disturbing, because in this news article, it says that Israel is an ethno-nationalist state with no interest in true democracy and equality. And this is simply not true. I will remind you that Israel was specifically created as a homeland and refuge for Jews and no one else. So yes, they were right to pass that law. And the clear winner, according to this, of the Trump-Putin summit was Israel, because the US and Russian leaders both said they will work to ensure Israel's security, and that both countries will work jointly, creating safety for Israel, and that is something both President Putin and Trump want to see very much. Interestingly, Putin said that he wants to bring a more peaceful relationship between Syria and Israel and also provide security for the state of Israel. And this is another interesting statement. Putin said, hopefully we will reach an understanding with our American partners. He said partners. Today's negotiations reflected our joint wish with President Trump to address the negative situation in bilateral relations. And he was also talking about Crimea. Now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised the law passage, calling it a defining moment in the history of Zionism, laying out the basic principle of our existence. And I will go over the details of this in the September class, because most people have no clue or understanding what these words mean. And in the United States, did you know that Jewish people are protected by law against racial discrimination?
No.
Because there was an employment decision recently in Louisiana by a federal magistrate judge who sided with a football coach who sued a private Baptist college in Louisiana because they wouldn't hire him for being Jewish or having Jewish genetics. The U.S. magistrate, Mark Hornsby, said that the law's protection against employment discrimination is based on modern sociologists and anthropologists, especially with advancements in DNA studies, to debate whether Judaism is a people, a religion, or both. There is no doubt, however, that many people have and continue to view being Jewish as a racial identity. The person involved in this case was a man by the name of Bonadonna, which is an Italian name. Mm-hmm. And he applied for a job as a defensive backs coach at his alma mater and was denied because of his Jewish descent. Mr. Bonadonna asked the head of the football group, Justin Charles, what that meant, and he was told that it was because of Mr. Bonadonna's Jewish blood. And I will explain fully and quite clearly what the definitions and implications of Zionism, Israel, and Judaism are at the September class, because I have extremely new yet ancient information. It's not what people think, and even most Jews don't know. Speaking of DNA, this is a little scary. Scientists have created an AI inside a test tube using strands of DNA that they hope will soon start to form its own memories. An artificial neural network that's made entirely of DNA and mimics the way the brain works has been created by scientists in a lab. This could one day lead to human-like robots made from entirely organic materials, and you won't know if they're human, not human.
No, we've already kind of know
Guess
that
what?
exists.
It already exists. I was just about to say. Mm-hmm. And let's remember that Nikola Tesla created robots in the 1890s.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, now you know.
I do.
Now here's a story for you.
Yeah.
Because you know they say that diamonds are a girl's best friend. You know that song?
And I've heard of the song.
Well, scientists have just unearthed a hoard of diamonds so valuable it would completely destroy the world's economy. Because they have discovered that there's a quadrillion ton of diamonds buried in what they call the cratonic roots in continents. That's 100 miles down, deeper than any drill is able to penetrate. So
Now, they
that's a
also say
problem.
that diamonds are a made-up market, an artificial market.
Well, according to this, they're shaped like upside-down mountains, and the researchers estimate that the roots may have 1 to 2% of diamonds in all of existence, and so that means that diamonds are not exotic, but rather relatively common.
That's why I said it's an artificial market, from my understanding.
And according to this story, the scientists said we can't get at them, but still, there is much more diamond here than we have ever thought before. So let's start digging. You can start anywhere and give 100 miles, you hit diamond.
Yeah, there you go.
Just one more thing I want to say about Hillary. You know that group Anonymous? Well, they released a new video recently that says that Hillary Clinton has been working on a plan to cull the population of the planet. The clip is entitled Anonymous Message to Hillary Clinton, where they describe the former First Lady as fake and evil and warn her not to run for president in 2020. I think, Hillary, give it up. It's over.
Right. You have to remember that, again, I always tell people they're all related, so...
It says, don't bother running for president in 2020, because if you do, it will be even easier for people of all walks of life to recognize that you aren't who you say you are. And by the way, after Trump reveals the information from Russia, she will not be running.
Well, the other thing is I just want to make a note that this culling the population has been going on, this rumor for years, so just ignore that because it's just to instill fear in people.
And I have stated that it's really not a culling. They want to move people to other worlds. That's what they're telling you about colonizing Mars and so on. Quickly, this is very important because just this past week, a 100-foot-long fissure near the Yellowstone supervolcano has prompted the closure of parts of Teton National Park, and coupled that with Steamboat Geyser's newly active status, which I reported on the last couple of weeks, the fear of an eruption of a Yellowstone caldera is increasing. Although scientists continue to tell the public the possibility of a major eruption is incredibly small, they're also believing that it's worth constantly monitoring it. So something is going on in Yellowstone. Please keep your eyes on this because what's really happening is being kept secret. And just on the other side of the world, an Indonesian volcano known as the child of the legendary Krakatoa started erupting last week, spewing plumes of ash high into the sky and molten lava from its summit. It's called Anak Krakatoa, a small volcanic island that emerged from the ocean after Krakatoa's 1883 eruption, spitting flat rocks and ash from its crater. When Krakatoa erupted in the 19th century, a jet of ash, stones, and smoke shot more than 20 kilometers in the sky, plunging the region into darkness and sparking a huge tsunami that was felt around the world, killing 36,000 people and creating a mini ice age for several years afterwards, which was called a volcanic winter. So,
Okay.
yeah.
There's a lot of stories.
It was because these are very important. People need to
Yes.
know this immediately. This is no time to waste.
All right, so I also have some Trump and Putin stories. So it's interesting in the light of what you have reported because it again sheds a little bit more on
Trump and put TP.
TP. That's very funny. What can I say?
can't help it.
So, for starters, I'm going to just report a little bit on their conferences together and what the things that came after that. So, for example, that Putin dismissed but did not quite deny the rumors that Russia compromised Trump. For example, a White House reporter for the Associated Press asked, quote, "Can you tell me what President Trump may have indicated to you about officially recognizing Crimea as part of Russia? And secondly, sir, does the Russian government have any compromising material on President Trump or his family?" So Putin said, that Trump's position is well known and that Trump still thinks Russia's annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014 was illegal. Putin, as expected, defended the action and said that Russia had acted in accordance with international law. And now, as far as the compromising material, Putin said, yes, I did hear these rumors that we allegedly collected compromising material on Trump when he was visiting Moscow. Let me tell you this, when President Trump was in Moscow back then, I didn't even know he was in Moscow. Now, in November of 2013, which is the event they're referring to, Trump was in Moscow for the Miss Universe pageant. But Putin says he wasn't aware that he was there, but Yahoo News chief investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff and Mother Jones Washington bureau chief David Korn reveal in their book called Russian Roulette that Trump and Putin were very much aware of each other's presence. And then Putin did not actually explicitly deny the allegation that Russian operatives collected information on Trump. However, he raised the possibility that Putin wants Trump to think he has compromising information, whether he does or he does not. He said that Trump was a private person, and that to demonstrate the absurdity, he said that there was an annual St. Petersburg International Economic Forum that had over 500 American businessmen in attendance. He says, I don't remember the last names of each and every one. Do you think we tried to get compromising material on each and every one? Well, that's difficult to imagine. So he wants his readers and listeners to just disregard these issues and don't think about them anymore. So that was Putin's response. Now, the Russian media, in the meantime, and this is now being picked up in American media about Trump-Putin love. This is becoming a big issue. In fact, there was even a cartoon of the two of them in a homosexual gay relationship.
That was really bright.
Yeah. So now,
Whoever did that one.
Now, even Olga Skapiva, a host of the Russian program 60 Minutes, said, quote, when Trump says our relations are bad because of American foolishness and stupidity, he really smells like an agent of the Kremlin. And Julia Davis, one of the closest English-language Russia media watchers, pointed to another time when the same program said that Trump was licking Putin's boots.
I was going to thought you said something else.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger, according to this, Julia Davis, called Trump a wet noodle.
Right, this is from the son of a Nazi, but go on.
So, the Russian media has echoed the bipartisan condemnation that President Trump has received for his joint press conference with Putin in Helsinki. So that critics have hit back at Trump for publicly disparaging the conclusions of American intelligence agencies and appearing to side with Putin, which you had addressed. So, then it goes on. About now, you probably know that here in the U.S., there has been a Russian woman accused of espionage who has now been jailed.
Yes.
And Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, tells the U.S. that they need to release her.
Yes.
So last week, a judge ordered Butina, it was Maria Butina is the woman's name, ordered her jailed after her trial after U.S. prosecutors argued that she has ties to Russian intelligence and could flee the U.S.
Oh, they say that about everybody.
Yeah, but it gives people a story now. So now we don't exactly know what's going on. And then the New York Daily News actually put the word treason with Donald Trump in a brutal new cover, suggesting his refusal to publicly condemn Putin was treason. I thought that was pretty strong.
That's just ridiculous.
But this is just what they're doing, you know.
And now we know why they're doing it, because they're afraid for their butts.
But yes, exactly. And that's why I said what you had to say puts a new light
That's
on
right.
some of these...
Which is why I had to say it.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Anyway, the New York Daily News said that Trump they were accusing Trump of siding with an enemy over his own country. So technically, you know, we're not at war with Russia, so why would we even call this our enemy?
It's not an enemy.
No. And then back to Trump. Now, this was kind of interesting. This has to do with your favorite subject, the British royals, Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, yes. I'm so, because they never invited us to the wedding.
Now, one thing that seems that they're bringing out in the news a lot are her brooches that she's wearing.
Oh, you like them?
Yeah. And the symbolism. So, when Trump was meeting with the Queen, and of course you had mentioned that he left her waiting on live TV for 10 minutes.
She was looking at her watch and looking at her watch.
And as you said...
Why would she wear a watch anyway?
Yeah, and not only that, but the Queen, you know, she always arrives last. You know, not... You know what I mean? Not the other way around.
She was not amused.
So, then they said that apparently that on one of her brooches, and then they went, well, let me, before I talk about the Queen specifically, they're talking in this article about how brooches are big in fashion. If you remember, which I reported on, Princess Michael of Kent was slammed for wearing a racist brooch over the holidays. You remember that? It was of a black person.
Oh, yeah.
And so they made a big deal out of that. Then, not too long ago, then before this article about the Queen and Trump, Meghan Markle appeared with the other royal women at an RAF, Royal Air Force event, and all the other women were wearing brooches except for her, and so they made a big deal out of that.
She was broochless.
She was broochless because apparently the brooch that the other royals were wearing was the highest award that any female cadet can achieve since 1982. So Kate has one.
That's not fair.
Because it's an honor. She was given this as an honorary air commandant of the RAF. Mm-hmm. And apparently the Queen has one, and Camilla has one.
We should have one too.
It says Meghan may eventually get one. So they're bringing up these brooches. So the symbolism.
Honestly, get over it.
Now they're saying when the Queen met with Trump on day one, she wore a brooch that was given to her as a personal gift of the Obamas.
I heard about that.
And she was close with the Obamas supposedly. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're all related, but let me remind you. And she invited Barack and Michelle for dinner, but she didn't invite Trump for dinner. As far as people know.
I would be so insulted.
Then on the second day, she wore one handed down by her mother. Like, who keeps track of all of this, right?
I mean, really?
She wore a brooch handed...
Who even could see it?
Right, handed down by... Well, they always photograph.
I know,
they're
but
big.
you can't, she always wears these colorful... You can't see anything.
No, they're bright, but she's got the brooch there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this one was handed down by her mother, who wore it to her father's state funeral. So the guess is that wearing a funeral brooch, it meant that she wasn't too pleased about meeting Trump.
So that you want him to go to his
dead,
funeral.
like be dead, right?
That Queenie, she's not nice, is she?
And then the last brooch that she wore was a gift to the Queen by Canada, and they are saying Trump and Canada aren't exactly on good terms.
No, they're not, because Trudeau's a moron.
So again, it was like she was saying she was siding with Canada versus with Trump. So I thought this was just interesting, the symbolism that they're bringing in. They're putting it in front of the public.
No wonder he walked in front of her.
Yeah.
He's like, get out of my way, old lady.
Well, maybe he was trying to hide the brooch.
Seriously.
And then
probably knock her over, too.
Yeah, my last story, which is kind of brief, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention. You remember back in October that horrible killing at the MGM in Las Vegas, right?
Yes, of course, yes.
Well, now the MGM Resorts International has claimed in a lawsuit it has no liability in any of the injuries or deaths in that mass shooting. However, they are suing more than 1,000 victims from the Las Vegas mass shooting.
That's lovely.
So I thought that was so odd.
How could they do that?
I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that was very odd story.
But because they were in the line of fire, how dare they?
I don't know. But
really?
Why they're doing it, I don't know.
It's to protect their own butts.
Yeah. So, with that said...
Nice caring hotel.
Yeah.
A boycott that hotel.
I want to remind you that if you have read, and I'm sure all of you have read this by now, because I've been telling you about it, the Blue Blood book and True World History, you'll definitely want to be at our September class, because as Stuart is talking about, he's got a lot of fascinating information to reveal.
I'll tell you what, it's a lot.
It is a lot. And if you're new to our work, Hyperspace Helper is a great place to begin, and Stuart says... along with my book, which I just finished up last year, a great series.
I liked it.
Decoding Your Life, which is a book of universal law. So this, on our member side, if there are those of you who are a member, less than $1 a day, you can get this series of webinars free that it took us 3 years to do based on universal law. So these 3 books are really great places to start if you're new to our work.
Right.
Okay, and so... we mentioned the September event.
Yes.
And my webinars start up again. The webinars this time we're going to be getting with my affirmations book. It's got amazing topics. Anywhere from abandonment to prosperity to programming, mind control, you name it, it's going to be in here.
Can I be on those webinars?
When you're in town, I'll let you. And
Thanks.
if you're good during the day.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I know, that's an issue. And we also do some dream interpretation. So when this brings up stuff from your subconscious mind, you tell us, we help you decipher and learn to do it for yourself. So it's an amazing book.
Yeah.
Okay?
Then, also, at the end of September,
Yes.
is my class in Tampa with the Sacred Medical Order of the Knights of Hope. And there's going to be some surprise guests, I will say, couple of people from the elite.
Maybe when we get closer, you might be able to reveal.
Someone of my family from Belarus. And a lead singer in a famous band who's coming to my I lecture. I'm thinking they want me to be in the band.
That's what I heard. I heard
That's
rumors.
I think that's why they're actually.
I heard rumors. They want you
coming.
for the lead singer.
Yeah, he's jealous of my hair and all
Yeah,
that.
he's told me
Yeah,
that a billion
I
times.
know. Anyway, in October, last weekend in October, is the Stargate to the Cosmos conference in Albuquerque, where I'll be giving a lecture, workshops, and being on panels.
And I think you're going to do personal consultations as well.
Yes.
I think there's a day or two in there, and those always fill up really fast. So if you're interested in that, you've got to get on the schedule
Yes,
immediately.
right. And then, of course, the January class.
Yep. So we have lots of stuff wherever we are in the world. Please be sure to like, comment, and share our videos. Our Facebook page, you get an extra 8% off on any service or event. Not event. Service or book, I think. I'm not. You'll have to look.
Well, you sound confident in
Yeah,
that.
but it's there. So they can look it up and figure that one out. But like our Facebook page, please share, invite your friends to do it. Spread the word about hyperspace oversoul work and how to learn to be your own teacher and decipher for yourself what's going on in this crazy, messed up world.
And like I say, I just today posted a promotional video on the island of Nevis.
Ah, cool.
Which it's so good. Just crank up the music, dance, and have a tropical drink while you listen.
Yeah. All righty.
Watch. Bye for now.
Bye.